It's been touted as the next big thing for Queensland's energy market. The first shipment of chilled natural gas, or LNG, is due to leave for Asia from Curtis Island off Gladstone within weeks. The industry will compete with LNG heavyweights such as the United States. But back home there's concern gas prices will spike and big manufacturers will pay the price. Marlena Wapp reports from Central Queensland.
The push for the new export industry on Australia's east coast has been unfolding at a cracking pace.
It's a pretty exciting time for Queensland, and Queensland, besides agriculture and some of the other sectors, has built a large economy based on the resource sector.
In terms of scale of transformation and impact on every energy user on the east coast, gas is a big deal.
3 liquefied natural gas plants have replaced mangroves on Curtis Island off Gladstone. And the first shipment of what the government hopes will be liquid gold is due to leave for Asia within weeks.
The Queensland government has predicted a very sharp increase in revenue to the government through the royalties.
There is a pretty solid headache, a hangover from that good stuff around export development and construction, and that is a significant reduction in output from other industries, particularly manufacturing and mining, that are heavy gas users.
Gladstone is already an industrial powerhouse, home to one of the world's busiest coal ports. Aluminium runs deep here too, but in just 3 years, Santos, the BG Group and the Australia Pacific venture have made LNG a dominant new force. Curtis Island's been one of the country's largest construction sites, employing more than 10,000 workers with 400 apprentices alone. And as LNG fires up, others have moved on. This month, cattle production wound up on the island after more than a century.
I always said I'd like to own it, but I knew I'd never ever have the money to own it. Just work here until you've got to go.
Most of the state has played a role in the rush for chilled gas, with a massive pipeline network stretching hundreds of kilometres to southern Queensland. And while the government's relying on LNG to help double the growth rate, others are worried there could be a price to pay. Professor John Rolfe from Central Queensland University has been crunching the numbers and believes gas prices will go up significantly.
The big gas companies have got contracts to sell overseas that they have to fill 2015-16 onwards, and there are some concerns that that's going to lead to a shortage of gas domestically. At the same time, because prices are so much higher overseas, gas prices will approximately triple within Australia.
And that's put other industries on edge.
We do need to look at how to limit the collateral damage to the rest of the economy.
The Australian Industry Group has been so concerned it commissioned a study. The report found that while the gas and construction sectors are expected to benefit from the developing East Coast LNG industry, almost all other sectors within the economy are likely to experience losses in income.
The scenarios that Deloitte considered in the modelling, if gas prices rise more or less as currently expected, there's a $118 billion cumulative loss of output from manufacturing over the years to 2021, so the next 7 years.
He says half of that manufacturing loss is expected to be felt in Queensland, and that could make gas-dependent businesses unviable.
There's 2 big concerns really. One is that prices will rise to levels that just make domestic operations not viable. The other, and it's equally serious, is that gas may not be available to domestic users at any realistic price.
This week, the pricing issue was the talk of the state's annual gas conference in Brisbane.
This conference is a fantastic opportunity to discuss possibly the biggest historical structural change in the domestic gas market in Australia.
Dr. Leo Yanis has been a resource analyst for more than a decade. He says volatility will be a key theme because the LNG exporters will be willing to pay huge prices to ensure their contracts to Asia are fulfilled.
And if any one of them has a shortfall and has spare capacity, they'll be willing to pay, being the projects with the highest willingness to pay for gas, they'll be willing to pay LNG international gas prices minus a small liquefaction cost.
But there's a complicating factor. Analysts believe the price of oil will spill over into the gas market.
Gas in East Asia, where we are selling our LNG, is priced against oil. So if oil prices fall, it's likely that East Asian gas prices will fall. Potentially that's going to impact the revenue from export from Australia negatively. It may ease gas price pressures for domestic users.
The AIG says developing more gas fields outside of Queensland would shore up supplies, but there are a number of community and environmental concerns that need to be resolved first.
And that's a challenge that we will look for progress on over the next year.